Hey, house guests, welcome to today's BBCan 10 updates and spoilers. Happy Friday. God, am I excited it's the weekend. But our house guests of the day are Patrice and Joey Dolliver Rower. Thank you both so much for the support. We could not do this without you, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you again. And if you guys want to be house guests of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below because it's only $1 for a holla. It's a bargain. And I want to thank yesterday's super chatter because that is also a fantastic way to support our channel. So Jefferson Tucker, thank you as always. You are a rock star. All right. Welcome. Hope you're having a great day so far. Let's get started. Last night, to no one's surprise, Kyle was evicted by a vote of 10-0. He let the power get to his head last week. It's a classic Big Brother mistake. And he's back out in the real world, I guess, right? So there was no door for Jess to open as a reward for surviving the block, which is unfortunate. I've been waiting and waiting every Thursday for this to happen, and they just haven't been doing it. But the secret doors were part of the HOH competition, so it makes sense that they wouldn't have a door opening and this HOH competition in the same day. But 5 BBCan legends were waiting behind those doors, and the house guests had 4 minutes to study the various scenes, and then they would have to answer questions about them. We're not going to get to see that competition until Monday night's episode, but we know who won, and we know who the 5 legends were. So, Spicy V, Jed, Anthony Poutine Poppy, Godfrey, and Cindy with an S were all behind the doors. That's so fun. I can't wait to see that competition play out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But Arissa revealed during Kyle's TikTok interview that Jess won HOH. Oh, dang. From the nomination block to the HOH. That's wild. So when the feeds came back, Jess is already conducting meetings in the HOH room, but these are not your regular run-of-the-mill pre-nomination one-on-one meetings. Jess wanted everyone to pitch why they should be chosen as Jess's number one. They're +1 for Wendy's. That's a lot. That's a lot because you know that Jess is also going to be having one-on-ones going into the nominations. I have to tell you, I'm freaking exhausted. It's been not even a full day of Jess's HOH, and I am tired. It's a lot of all right, but anyway, this also seemed like a fun little pitch to me why you should go to Wendy's. So they're trying to have fun with everyone. Not everyone received it that way, but it seems like a lot of these conversations had already happened by the time the feeds came on because as I always remind you, the live eviction episodes are not live, they're pre-taped. So by the time the feeds come back after the episode, the house guests have already been chilling out for hours since the eviction. So when the feeds came back on, Jess was chatting with Moose in the HOH room, and Jess wants to know, number one, why do you deserve to go to Wendy's? And tell me why you think Wendy's is so delicious. We don't really need to hear this part, so we're gonna skip that. But Jess also asks, why would it be beneficial strategically for you and I to have an uninterrupted conversation that Wendy's would allow us to have? So Moose says, well, I feel really good with you on a personal level. So maybe there would be better people for you to pick for this. What? You're telling Jess to pick somebody else? That's bold. Moose does not realize that he's in danger with Jess's HOH this week. Jess has been talking for a while now about how they want to target Moose. They want to target Herman. And now they finally have a chance to do it. Sorry, this is my exhaustion from listening to all these conversations. But Jess says, yes, our personal connection does feel genuine, but the strategy part is missing. We haven't had a ton of game chats. So Moose is like, well, I didn't feel like we needed to go too deep with the game chats yet. Not a great answer at this point in the game. But Moose says he wants Jess in this house. Jess says, do you? Because I feel like I would have been an option to go up on the block this week if you had won HOH. So Moose is like, I don't think so. Yikes. And Jess is like, well, if you don't know, then that makes me feel like I am an option. And Moose says, I genuinely don't know. Like, everybody would be an option. I would have to see what people have to say if I were to win HOH, blah, blah, blah. So Moose admits he did see Jess as a target like week 1 and week 2, but that all changed during Kyle's HOH week. He says, I realized who actually cared about me that week. I realized that there's value in having you around. You're a strong, powerful player. So again, Moose is saying, I think it would be more beneficial for your game to take somebody else to Wendy's and not me, because we can have, these game conversations outside of Wendy's. You don't need to waste that on me. So Moose suggests picking Summer for Wendy's. He says Summer is a really good person to talk to one-on-one. She's got a lot of connections throughout the house, and it'll give you a chance to understand someone more who you don't really talk to as much already. Okay. So then JC Lynn was up next to chat with Jess, and Jess pretty much says that they would like to pick JC Lynn for Wendy's, but they don't want the other house guests to know that they're close. And I have to say, Jess does seem very comfortable chatting with JC Lynn. Like, they're working together pretty closely. And Jess has expressed interest for a while now in being the spare tire for the showmance. Jess wants to use the showmance as a shield. I don't know if it's gonna work, because even though the bros are acting like they're not all working together anymore, do we really think that they're gonna go after each other at this point? I mean, now that Kyle's out of the way, I don't know about that. So Jess asks JC Lynn, is Gino worried this week? Is he worried that I'm going to put him up? And JC Lynn says, I mean, yeah, he's worried to a certain degree just because he did put you up on the block last week. But he's finding comfort in the fact that we all have the same targets right now. And JC Lynn is talking about Herman, Moose, and Tanisha. So JC Lynn says Moose, Herman, and Tanisha are the three-headed snake. They're not really winning many competitions, but they are just running things on the other side of the house. And this is something that has been ingrained now in JC Lynn and Gino, because Helena was telling Gino last week, oh yeah, Tanisha, Moose, and Herman, they're all a tight trio. They're running the show on the other side. Okay, so JC Lynn feels like Marty and Josh are also targeting those 3 house guests. And Jess is like, I'm not so sure that Josh is. And I have to say, Jess is getting more and more skeptical of Josh. I think Jess is realizing Josh is very close to a lot of people on all sides of the house. So he is very well connected right now. So Jess says, I have heard that Moose and Herman have dropped my name a million times. So Jess is asking JC Lynn, who do you think would spill more beans if I brought them for Wendy's, Moose or Herman? And JC Lynn's like, I don't envision either of them really spilling beans if you pick them, because they thought that having to pitch to you to go to Wendy's was stupid. So Jess is like, great, well, enjoy the block. I guess Jess is still planning on putting Moose and Herman up on the block. And Jess at one point was like, I gotta make sure I think strategically, not emotionally, because I'm sure it stung to hear that Moose and Herman thought that was stupid. Okay, so then they chat a bit more, and JC Lynn is talking about how she believes Moose, Herman, Tanisha, Betty, and Summer are all working together. And this is correct at this point, because all 5 of those house guests are part of the True Fuse Alliance with Helena and Josh. But this group is working together now because Kyle forced them together. Kyle and Marty had been suspecting that they were all working together for the last few weeks, and it was not true at that point. But now they actually are working together because they all banded together to save Josh last week. All right. So Marty has a quick check-in with Jess, and Marty's like, I'm really, really happy that you won HOH. This is amazing. You deserve this. Jess and Marty are both really excited that they survived the block last week. They both have 2 competition wins now, and they're the 2 oldest house guests, so they feel pretty good about that. And Jess says, we need to be careful about this because I feel like people are lumping the 2 of us together. So I need you to not act too happy this week, right? We don't need people pairing us together. So Jess is also pushing that Marty needs to rebuild his relationships with other people, specifically Gino. Jess really wants Gino and Marty to get back together. They're just so wonderful together. They have such a beautiful friendship. And Jess is telling Marty, Gino really cares about you. They're fine now. Marty and Gino have already made up. They're just playing it off like they're not. So Jess says that the 5 that Marty tried to pitch will never work because it includes Josh. I don't know what 5 exactly she's referring to. I believe this is something that Marty came up with before the eviction vote between Josh and Steph. I don't remember exactly who he was pitching, but I'm assuming it was Josh and Jess, Marty, and then maybe Gino and JC Lynn. I don't know if that's what it was. I don't remember for sure, but who knows? But Jess says, I love Josh, but Josh is in with everyone. So I don't know if this is the time to pull him into an alliance. But Jess really wants to focus on building relationships this week. They feel like this is something that they've repeated multiple times. They feel like no one really voted to keep them. People were just voting for Kyle to go. That's deep. And also, I mean, Jess is not wrong here. Most people would have been happy to get rid of Jess last week, but then once Kyle was also on the block, Kyle had to go. So Jess has noticed that people are already treating them differently now that they've won HOH. Okay, so let's check in with Herman and Tanisha. They were chatting in the backyard, and Herman says, I'm not like super worried. I never worried too much. You should worry this week. But Tanisha says she was actually worried last week when Gino was HOH, but not as much now that Jess is in power. Tanisha says, I don't know what angle Jess is going to go exactly. I don't know what path they're going to go down. Tanisha says she's talked some game with Jess, but not a ton. Tanisha thinks that Jess is probably going to target Moose. That's half of it. Herman says he's also heard Jess mention Marty's name. Jess is not going to put out Marty this week. It's just not going to happen. But they're wondering if they can get Marty up on the block. Tanisha's saying it would pretty much have to be a backdoor move because Marty is such a strong competitor. They cannot give Marty the chance to win the power veto and save himself again. So they're thinking maybe we can push the backdoor deal with Jess. But then Herman is saying, no, not feeling great about that idea because if Marty doesn't go up on the block, he's worried that he would be going up instead. Okay, so Kevin and Jess had a long chat last night, and I get the sense that Kevin is possibly Jess's number 1 at this point. But Kevin, I don't feel is as committed to Jess. I think Kevin is more loyal to Helena and possibly even other people, but definitely Helena. So here are just like some highlights from this conversation because it was pretty long. So Jess is telling Kevin, I need you to check in with me more this week. I need to be able to discuss things with you. And Kevin's like, okay. So Jess is saying they want to keep JC Lynn and Gino around for now because they feel the showmance has a huge target on them, and the showmance will be a shield for Jess and Kevin. Jess is feeling like a really big target at this point, and if they're up on the block again, they want to be next to someone like Kyle who will be a bigger target. Because again, they feel like nobody really voted for them to stay. It was just more they wanted the other person to go. So Jess was also talking about wanting to keep Marty safe because nobody else really trusts him. And Kevin's like, cool, tight. Do you want to establish an alliance this week with JC Lynn and Gino? And Jess is like, I don't know. They're not really sure that they want to lock in something official with JC Lynn and Gino. Jess says, we already have the same targets as them. I don't want to paint myself into a corner, and make this official deal with them. And then, kind of have to maybe ruin things with Tanisha, Betty, and Summer. So yeah, Jess is not sure about that alliance being official, but Jess is also discussing being very nervous about pulling Josh into an alliance because, again, he's really close to a lot of other people, especially Betty. Okay, so Jess reveals they are planning on picking Summer for Wendy's, and they also confirmed that they want to put Herman and Moose up on the block. Saw that one coming, right? Herman is their number one target. I mean, Herman put Jess up on the block week 1. Herman has still been talking about targeting Jess since then. So it makes sense, I guess, right? But Jess is struggling to decide who would be the replacement nominee if necessary. And it's looking like it could be Tanisha, Summer, or Betty. But again, Jess is nervous about severing those relationships potentially. Yeah, I think they'd be pretty pissed if they went up on the block as the replacement nominee. But that was all last night. Today, Jess was continuing their one-on-one chats, and here are just some highlights because we can't go through all of every single conversation. It's a lot. But Betty was really keeping it real with Jess today, saying that she's worried about Gino, JC Lynn, and Marty moving forward. Ugh, that's like all of Jess's new non-alliance. So Betty is wondering, why wouldn't you put Gino up on the block? He nominated you last week. And Jess is explaining, I want to use the showmans as a shield. I don't really want to put them up at this point. So Betty is saying, well, I want to work with you, Josh, Tanisha, and Summer. And apparently there was this alliance created already called the Siblings with, I believe, Jess, Betty, Tanisha, and Summer. So they would just be adding on Josh at this point. But Betty is really trying to push Marty as a target here. And Jess is like, no, because Jess feels like if Marty were to win HOH again, he would not put them up on the block. So they don't really want to put Marty up this week. But then when Jess brings up Herman possibly going up this week, Betty admits she wouldn't vote Herman out. She just wouldn't do it. And I've heard Herman say in the past that if Betty was up there, he would not vote her out. They have this like cultural connection. They don't want to vote each other out. Okay. So then it was Moose's turn to chat with Jess. And Jess is bringing up again, I've been hearing that you want to target me. Moose is not really saying anything that's changing Jess's mind here. Jess says they would give Moose the chance to play for the power veto, and Moose tries to throw Betty under the bus. He says he thinks that Betty got a secret power during the telephone tasks and that she should be nominated and they can like get rid of that power, flush it out. No. No. Not working. Also, I don't think Betty actually got a power during that telephone task. You never know, but I don't think so. I feel like they would have shown that last night. So Herman had his turn to chat with Jess, and he was like, I know I've given you good reason to put me up on the block because, again, Herman nominated Jess week 1. And Herman says, I don't want to go up, but I do want to play for the power veto this week. So if I go up, at least I would definitely be playing, right? And Jess is like, yeah, I will let you know ahead of time if you're going up. I would give you that chance to play for the power veto. So Herman is also throwing Marty out as a potential target for the role that he played in getting Josh nominated the week before. But Jess is not biting. It doesn't seem like anything at this point is really changing Jess's mind on these nominations. So Gino chats with Jess, And even though Gino just put Jess up on the block last week, Jess wants to build something with him and Marty and JC Lynn, of course. So Jess is really pushing here that they want Gino and Marty to mend fences. And Jess gets like emotional and starts crying about it. Oh my God, save your tears. Wake up. They're already fine. They've made up. Oh my God. But yeah, Jess also comes up with this plan. They want to play it off to other people like Gino is their backdoor target this week so that it'll throw people off the scent and they won't realize that Jess and Gino are working together. I mean, it's a good plan, except like, why not take a shot at Gino? I feel like it's silly not to put Gino up on the block, but here we are. So after Jess confirms again to Kevin that Moose and Herman are going up on the block, Herman is still the target, and Tanisha at this point would be the replacement nominee if necessary. So while Jess was doing their one-on-one chats, Summer, Betty, Tanisha, and Josh were chatting in the beach room. And Betty says it's going to be wild to see how this week plays out because none of them really know exactly what Jess is planning at this point. Summer says, technically, Moose and Herman are on our side, but some slip-ups that they've had, some things that they've said, it seems like they kind of just look at the rest of us as numbers in their alliance. We're expendable to them. And they're mostly talking about Moose here, but also Herman to an extent. And Summer says if Moose thinks that we're expendable, then he can go. He can be the expendable one. So Summer also brings up how Herman was on the fence about his vote when Josh was up on the block. And Summer says this shouldn't be a question. You know, we're all working together. You got to do what you got to do here. So Josh is trying to defend Herman because they have a final two that they just established the other day, the BC babies. And Josh says, I heard from Kyle that Herman was against me going up on the block in the first place. He didn't want that. You know, he was kind of in a tough position that week, which is true. He did not want Josh to go up on the block, but he was also trying to have his cake and eat it too at first, where he was like, maybe I'll just like vote out Josh anyway, but I'm with you guys. I just don't want the bros to know that. You know, he did end up, of course, voting for Steph to go, but didn't sit great with his alliance that he wasn't on board from the jump. So it seems like this group would probably keep Herman over Moose if they are the two still up on the block on Thursday. But they don't really want to start discussing this too much until they see what happens officially with the nominations and with the power of veto. So as planned, Jess picked Summer for Wendy's, and it doesn't seem like anything that was discussed there really swayed Jess's plans because it seems like Jess is still on track to put Moose and Herman up on the block today. If you guys want to check back later, I will post the nominations in the info for this spoiler. But it's looking pretty certain that that's who we're going to see up on the block. So we'll see what happens. But come on in.
Oh,
yay!
Hi.
Oh, Mr. Smiles.
Would you be my plus one for Wednesdays?
Of course.
Well, the only thing we can eat there is a baked potato.
Yeah, right.
Jess
was serious about this Wendy's stuff too. They went around to everybody once they made their decision and were telling them like, thank you for your application, but I've decided to go in another direction.
Wow.
Talking about like shredding Herman and Moose's applications. So it's pretty wild. But anyway, I guess you get pretty bored in that house and you gotta do something to entertain yourself.
If it was outside of the house, I would have said, oh, that was a little self-indulgent.
That's a bit much.
But with no television, no cell phones, no radio,
what else you got?
You got to make some fun.
Yeah. So I want to thank today's super chatters because you guys are amazing. So Jefferson Tucker, thank you so much. And he says, have a fabulous weekend, everyone.
Yay!
From Jefferson Tuckery.
Yay!
Love it. And Christopher Brown, thank you so much for the super chat. Christopher says, happy to finally make the live this season. Excited to see a Jess HOH and the mess that will unfold.
Yeah.
This season is truly delivering so far. I gotta agree. This
Isn't
season,
it though?
I know it is. Bowie agrees. He said, every time I think, oh my God, this person won HOH, they do something completely unexpected and surprise me. So
it's lovely.
It's been a lot of fun. I like how fluid this house is. I mean,
would you say this house is non-binary?
No, but I would say it's fluid. Every time like these new alliances pop up, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
But
he said, "Don't touch my scab."
What are you doing to that baby?
He had some
baby
scab
boy.
on his,
what is she doing?
On his fur. I was trying to get it out. Look, he doesn't like it.
Enough.
No,
it's okay.
Sorry, you're taking away from me.
Yeah. Even though there are so many different alliances this season, I feel like they like pop up and then they evaporate within like days because everybody is just going like all over the house.
This reminds me of when Survivor first changed the
to
game,
like the voting blocks.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. Just a lot more fast paced.
It's exciting. I don't like knowing what's going to happen before it happens.
Yeah. It's nice to have a little mystery. So, excuse me.
Is that what she said?
What?
It's nice to have a little mystery.
Who's she?
Whoever.
Oh, the overall she?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
You know, like on The Office when they said, that's what she said.
Yeah. I do know.
I'll change it to that's what they said.
Okay. But anyway, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday night. Thoughts on Survivor? It's fantastic, as always.
Amazing.
Yes. All right. We will see you all. Yes, we will see you all tomorrow, where we will have much more to talk about, I'm sure. So until then, much love. Bye.
Expect the unexpected.
Bye.